Hey everyone, in this video we're going to meet up with Rob Greenfield. He's a really inspiring guy, and now he's living in a tiny house that he built for only $1,500 using reclaimed materials. In this video, Rob's going to give us a full tour and explain how all the systems work, because in addition to building the tiny house, he's also collecting rainwater, growing and foraging 100% of his food, using a biodigester to create fuel, and a lot more. On top of that, he's doing all of this in an urban backyard. We're also going to ask him about the challenges and benefits of his super sustainable lifestyle, so stay tuned because there's lots of good stuff in this video.
I really strive to live simply, and so for me, this tiny house and this homestead that I've created, it allows me to live the simple life that I desire. I don't have any bills, no debt, no car, no driver's license, and really a lot of that is possible because this little homestead allows me to meet the basic needs that I have and really prevents me from overextending myself, from wanting more and having more than I can need. I have food, I have water, I have electricity, the little bit that I need, and I'm able to live a pretty peaceful, content life here. So this is the house here. It is pretty small, as you can see. It's about 100 square feet, 10 foot by 10 foot. And one of the most important things for me when I decided that I was going to build a tiny house was that I wanted to do it in a way that had as minimal of an impact as I could. So for me, what that meant was using repurposed materials. So this was built out of about 99% secondhand and repurposed materials. And I did it for about $1,500, under $1,500. One of my big goals through living simply and living sustainably is really to make it accessible to other people and to help them to be able to live in a similar way if they desire to. So I see some of these really expensive tiny houses out there that might be $100,000, $150,000, and my goal is to kind of show the other end of the spectrum of just how simple it can be, how inexpensive it can be, and doing it in a way that really minimizes our environmental impact. I'll take you inside, but 100 square feet, it's pretty small. So I'm living in Orlando, Florida, in a very urban area. I'm just about 3 miles or so from downtown. And so the way that I designed this house was to really fit into the neighborhood. I didn't want something that really stuck out, since tiny houses aren't actually legal in a lot of places, and I'm not putting it on wheels. So what I decided to do is build it to be basically just like a shed. And that's the way that I really designed it. So what I used is mostly leftover materials from construction sites, so I'm using basic 2x4s and plywood. I used pallets as the foundation. The roof is just basic metal. These are secondhand materials I got off Craigslist for the windows, same for the doors. So yeah, building wise, it was a very simple design. I basically did research on sheds online and then adapted it for my needs. Sheds aren't typically going to have so much windows and such large doors, for example. Here in Florida, we deal with extremely hot weather during the summer, so one of my main challenges was designing this in a way where I'd be able to make it through our heat, our hot, humid summers. So one of the most important things was just leaving the roof open so that I can have a breeze, a cross breeze that just comes through here. Same with the windows and the doors on either side. There can always be a nice breeze coming through here. Obviously, I don't have air conditioning, and I don't even really have insulation. I used burlap just as a cover, and all that really is it just makes it look better, so it's not, plywood on the other side, but there's no insulation in there. So this is really designed for the heat of the summers, and the winter is a little rough because I don't have a stove or insulation, but the winter here is short and I made it work through my first winter. Other things, the bed is just designed out of leftover 2x4s from the build mostly, and this is flooring from a house that flooded. Same with the floor down here. This is just I got this off Craigslist. It was flooring that was from a house that had flooded, and this was stuff that wasn't damaged, but they were still getting rid of it. The desk is built out of pallets and leftover 2x4s. Most of the things that I didn't build, I was able to find used. I got this chair for $15, for example, from a garage sale. The shelves are from Habitat for Humanity. You know, pretty basic, pretty simple stuff. You can see there's just not a whole lot here. I always have a little bit of hard time with the tours because there's kind of so little going on in here. But what's really going on is food. I'm currently doing a project where for 1 year I'm growing and foraging 100% of my food. So what this house really is a capsule for my food. Over here I've got pumpkins that I grew last summer. These are called Seminole pumpkins. These are all ferments like honey wine and vinegars and ginger beer and gin and such. A small library of books. A lot of these are about how to grow food. More food down here. If I come back here, this is another one of my food storage shelves. I have lots of honey. I have 4 beehives, 2 here and 2 at another place. Last fall I got 75 pounds of honey, and it's been plenty for me. It's a really important part of what I'm doing. And then I do a lot of foraging, so here's citrus, oranges, grapefruits, lemons. Here is papayas. I grow these in my garden. And down here I've got a lot of my staples, so pigeon peas that come from my front yard, pumpkin seeds, lots of herbs like onion and garlic, dried. Got things like my coconut oil that I make from coconuts that I forage, and salt from the ocean. So really, you know, the purpose of me living here in Orlando for 2 years and having this tiny house is a part of this project of growing and foraging 100% of my food for a year. So that's really what this whole house is based around. I live pretty simply with pretty minimal stuff. This is my clothing shelf right here. All of my clothes fit pretty comfortably onto one shelf. These are some of my personal possessions here. You know, hygiene-wise, I don't need a whole lot of things. A bamboo toothbrush, a chew stick, that's an alternative way of cleaning teeth, some essential oils, dental floss, you know, not a whole lot. Pretty basic stuff there. In my last tiny house, I lived off the grid. So I had solar panels to meet my electrical needs, and I wasn't connected to the public utilities for water. For this project, I decided to be connected to the municipal electricity. One of the main reasons is the deep chest freezer. So I store lots of food in here, things like prickly pear cactus fruit, just, you know, bags of things that I'm trying to save. This is roselle, for example. It's important to be able to store bulk amounts of food, like this is yucca, for example, one of my staple crops. So the thing about the deep chest freezer is it only uses about $3 a month in electricity, but I can store about 200 pounds of food. So I just have an extension cord that's running from the property that I'm on, and I'm using less than $10 a month total. So I was originally going to do solar panels, but I'm just living here for about 2 years and realized I didn't really feel like the trade-off of spending the money on solar and having them for a short period of time was really necessary, and I felt like it's actually more sustainable to be connected to the grid for the little bit of electricity that I use, rather than doing something like buying new solar panels. So I have just 3 plugs, so it minimizes the amount of electricity I can use. My computer is one thing that I'm often using, a lamp, and other basic things. The bed, this is where I store things underneath. Plenty of space to store things. A lot of this is food oriented as well. One of the big things is my bee boxes, the honey supers for when they're not using those. So just some very basic storage. I would have a bed on the ground, but it's kind of key for the storage. In an ideal situation, I'd like to have a loft, but just didn't quite play out this time. The bed works as a couch or my bed. Just simply pull it out like this and I've got my bed, and then put it back and there's the couch. And it's not always that simple or easy, but behind it here is a mosquito net. So you can see this place is very open. I don't have screens in the windows. So I have a mosquito net, so at night I put that over don't have to worry about the mosquitoes at night. They get pretty tough here in the summer. This summer, I'm probably going to put screens on the window and a net here, and then put mosquito nets up there because it was pretty rough last summer. I decided not to do it on wheels because I just really don't want to be moving around a tiny house, and because a trailer would have been the most expensive part. So I built it right here on pallets, and it'll stay here. That's pretty much the inside of the house. I don't spend most of my time inside of my house. I spend more of it out in my community or out in my yard, in my outdoor kitchen, and things like that. So I'll take you outside now. So this is my outdoor kitchen behind me, and I spend a lot of my time here. In a normal day, I might cook breakfast, lunch, and dinner. One of my favorite parts about this is that I drink rainwater. So I'm not connected to the grid for water. I do have access to a hose, but about 99% of my water here comes from harvesting rainwater. I harvest it on the roof of the tiny house, and then for drinking water, it goes right into here and comes out pure. Delicious, fresh drinking water. Behind me is a barrel, and I fill that up with water that I harvest from the property owner's roof so that I have more surface area to harvest from. And this is just a gravity-fed sink, so no electricity or anything like that. It just comes out using gravity, using the weight of the water in the barrel. And then the water, when I release it, just goes down. Instead of going off into a sewer system to be a waste product for someone else to deal with, it just goes down a tube and then right out to the back where I've planted different water-loving plants. Bananas, for example, and taro. I have a few ways to cook. I have a solar oven, which I need to start using more now that it's going to be summertime, and my backyard is pretty shady, and so now that it's summer there's going to be more sun, so I'll start using that more. I have 2 stoves. I have a regular propane stove that I fill up a 5-gallon or 20-pound propane tank, and that's what I currently am using at the moment. And then I also have a biodigester that turns food waste into methane that I can cook with. That hasn't been able to produce as much as I need, so I still need to keep my propane stove. I'm hoping I can get that thing running to the point where I can, be completely independent of the fossil fuels, but for now I'm still using the propane. So I also can cook with wood. The wood is just wood that I gather from the neighborhood, fallen down trees or heat-treated pallets that are clean to cook with. And if I have a large project like boiling lots of salt water, I'll use this. I'd like to have a rocket stove, but just haven't gotten around to making one yet. Over here is the biodigester. So food waste simply goes down into here, and it's basically like a stomach. The bacteria in here creates methane as one of the byproducts of breaking things down. The methane is collected in this bladder here, and then this is pressured, goes through a pipe just a little pipe that goes underground over to my stove. So that's one way that I deal with food waste. Another way is right here, and this is the compost bin. So the compost bin is extremely simple. It's one of the simplest forms of compost bins out there. It's just some chicken wire wrapped around into a circle, and this is a way for me to not put my burden on others, not put food waste to the landfill where it makes methane, but instead it turns into a healthy, nutritious soil that I can then use to grow more food. So here is one of my favorite plants, if not my favorite plant in the backyard, and this is my toilet paper. It's called the blue spur flower. It's got many common names, and not only does it actually smell great because it's in the mint family, but it actually is just about as one of the softest plants. I mean, it's just, one of the softest plants you can possibly imagine. So I grow my own toilet paper. I haven't bought toilet paper for about 5 years. And I just come over here, pick some, and then go over to the toilet. The amazing thing is that this actually stays good after being on the plant for a while. I've had it sitting here for 5 days and still being soft and strong. So that takes me to the compost toilet. I've mentioned it a couple of times already, but really my lifestyle is designed to not place my burdens elsewhere, but instead to take things that would otherwise be a waste product and utilize them to, add fertility to the world, make the world a better place. Poop and pee is something that a lot of us are just basically kind of scared of, that we think is this horrible thing, but it's not. It's something we've been doing for millions and millions of years, and it can be dealt with in a way that's environmentally responsible and actually can grow us food. I have a pretty simple system here. This side is going number 1, pee. That is just used for the nitrogen in that is really great for plants like bananas, papaya, and it's diluted using water. So mostly fruit trees, bushes, and such. And then poop, I just use sawdust as the covering it up medium. And then there's a 5-gallon bucket under here. That is then composted. It's called humanure, and it's supposed to be composted for a year. And then that can be used for fertilizing fruit trees and such. So this is the compost toilet, very simple system. The entire thing probably costs $30, $40, something like that. It's mostly leftover materials from the build. So next I want to take you to the shower. I shower with rainwater. It's really my favorite way to shower. This is a pretty simple system. I'm using a 275-gallon tote. This is on the homeowner's house because I want to maximize my rainwater harvesting. 100 square feet captures quite a bit of rain, but this house captures more. So basic, pretty simple rainwater shower. What I love about this shower is there is no such thing as wasting water. All I'm doing is slowing the water down from the sky to the time that it reaches the ground, and then actually this water is watering a banana tree that I've recently planted that will hopefully grow tall into many, and all of that treats the gray water and hopefully will grow me bananas. So you might be wondering, how do I get around? Transportation, a bike. So and then one of the keys is to have a bike rack to throw panniers on here to carry what I need. I also have a trailer that can carry 300 pounds on it. So I got rid of my car about 7 years ago now. I've been car free and do most of what I need to do on my bicycle and with the trailer. All right, so I'm gonna take you out to the garden, and one of the most common questions is, how does this work? How are you living here? Do you own the land? Do you rent? And so what I'm doing is a work exchange. There's millions of unused backyards all across the United States, and what I decided to do is find a way where I could be of benefit and of service to someone else and meet my basic needs at the same time. So I found someone here in Orlando that had always wanted to grow their own food and live more sustainably, and the exchange is I've turned their whole front yard into a garden and set up the rainwater harvesting and the compost and all of these things to help them live more sustainably and get to eat their own homegrown food in exchange for me using the backyard. So this is the same thing that I did when I lived in San Diego. It's been a really great setup that allows me to live without a single bill to my name, with no debt, and live really simply at the same time being in the service of others. That's what it's all about. It's about how can we meet the needs of other people. So this is the garden. I have 6 gardens spread out throughout Orlando, and I spend a lot of my time out here. It's amazing how much grows in a small space. I'm an environmental activist and an adventurer with a pretty simple mission of trying to make the world around me a happier, healthier place. I do sort of extreme adventures and activism campaigns to really catch people's attention and get them to think about important environmental and social issues that we just often don't think about. One of my big projects was Trash Me. In that, I lived like the average American for a month, but I had to wear every single piece of trash that I created to create a visual of how much garbage just one person creates. I've biked across the United States 3 times on a bamboo bicycle, raising awareness about sustainability. I had gotten my life down to just 111 possessions, and for 2 years I traveled with everything that I owned fitting on my back to really just get people thinking. The more that I've basically simplified my life, the less needs that I have, the more that I'm able to help meet other people's needs, the more that I'm able to really live in the service of others. So I really love the setup that I've created here because this allows me, this creates that foundation of meeting my very basic needs so that I can spend my time helping others, inspiring others, educating others to live in a way that's better for the world, better for the earth, better for our communities, and better for ourselves. A lot of people think by living with so little, people think you're giving things up. And so, the question of why I choose to have so little, well, it's the opposite of that. I've found that the more that I've given up, the more extraneous things that I didn't need, the more that I've opened up space to live with more purpose, more passion, to do the things that I really want to do. So the reason I live with less is so that I can live with more, so that I can spend time with the people that I love, so that I can spend time doing things that I love, and so that I can live the life that I want rather than a life that is based around making money to buy more stuff or insure it or clean it or maintain it or organize it. That's what it's all about, living with less so that I can have more life. I have no desire to feed into any delusion that life is easy. And no matter what life we're choosing to live, there's challenges behind it. This lifestyle, of simple living and of really trying to take responsibility for all of my actions and how it affects the world around me, it is challenging. There's no question about it. I deal with so many challenges on a daily basis. Just to, name a few, it's the constant upkeep, whether it's emptying the compost toilet or filling my rainwater system or filling my water purification system or the time in the garden, whether it's maintaining it or the amount of harvesting or preserving. I do find that a small house tends to get messier a little easier because I don't have tons of space to store things away. So I do kind of find myself cleaning pretty often. But the good news is it's pretty short cleaning. It doesn't take long to clean up a 100 square foot tiny house. Living this outdoor life without air conditioning and without heat means that I am more at the whim of the weather. I am sometimes cold in the winter and I am hot in the summer. So that's a challenge, but I've chosen not to outsource that burden to air conditioning, which means burning huge amounts of fossil fuels. So it's worth it, but it is a challenge. The insects are a challenge here in Florida, and not even having screens. Yeah, last summer I got bit by a lot of mosquitoes. So that's been a challenge, and with the outdoor kitchen, the insects are a challenge as well. I'd like to improve and set up just a screen around my outdoor kitchen to help with that this summer. So I'm constantly running into challenges, living with so much less money. Last year I made $8,000 and the year before that it was $5,000. So I live with very little money. That has its challenges. I really have to watch what I'm doing. And sometimes it definitely means going without things that I really in the moment would like. But all of it is a part of the bigger picture, that it is the life that I want to be living, and the challenges are all a part of creating the lifestyle that I want, which is living simply, living sustainably, being an example for other people who have a desire to live that way. So no doubt it's challenging, but the challenges are definitely worth it.
I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to follow Rob, you can check him out on his YouTube channel. I'll put a link to it in the description of this video. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We post a new video every single week about people trying all sorts of different alternative lifestyles.